Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Paradigm Shift Productions' reading of AVERSION, a ZINE of Therapeutic Vignettes by Aaron Eischeid. Are you guys ready to hear some reading?
Yeah.
I will let Aaron take it away.
Good evening. Aversion therapy is a noun. It is therapy intended to suppress an undesirable habit or behavior by associating the habit or behavior with a noxious or punishing stimulus. That therapy begins here in Aversion, a zine of therapeutic vignettes, Chapter 1, Dummy. The secretary was a woman of few words. Two, in fact. "Go in," she said, without missing a beat in the rap her nails made against the desk. Tick, tick, tick went each note, soft but sharp from the tips that were sawed to a point, their faces varnished in gleaming red. The rhythm was the one of time, every second stabbed with elegant precision under the arch of her fingers before they were allowed to pass into the waiting room over which she lorded. Words were of little use. Why should they be, when time was already sniveling on your side? Owen swung his legs to the hypnotic tune, as he had done so for, judging roughly from the ticks, the past hour. The secretary's curt instruction whisked in one ear and out the other. His eyes continued to flit across the collection of literary curios whose shelves walled the two of the men. He adjusted his glasses and squinted. The room's flickering gaslights made it difficult to decipher the titles, not to mention the caked-on layers of what was best guessed as centuries-old dust. The Most Dangerous Game, The Mighty Fjords of Norway, and Bugs! Owen felt like he was in the dream state of his high school library the night before he had to write a paper, a feeling there were no words for except, "This sucks." But spine after spine, another feeling began to tug his deeper conscience, the one in the dust. Dust is everywhere, Owen thought. It lands on one thing and flies to another, but this dust, it stuck. It was like the book grew it, a new skin. A lot of people have touched these books, their oils left behind for the dust to latch onto. These books tell two stories, one of the text, the other of the essence left behind. There was a lot of essence in this room. Owen felt the notion dawn in the pit of his stomach, when suddenly, across the room, time stopped. Her eyes flicked up. Behind a mask of cat-eye shades, their tacit power lacerated the room, fracturing it into suspension. Legs were dangling in mid-swing. A stupefied jaw was sent slacking to the Adam's apple. The dust flowed to a halt like a curtain between her and the boy, blanketing them with static and silence. Body frozen, Owen felt his lungs constrict into a single, bated breath. Floating flecks stung his cheek as the gaze slowly allowed him to turn back around. "Sit down! Be quiet! Listen!" Oops, he mentally gulped as the transgression read clearly in framed, bold cursive on the desk. The humiliation rushed him. Why had he forgotten? It was there when he walked in, smack dab square in his face the entire time. Sitting down was easy with these cozy chairs. He was always quiet. Listening, well, he got distracted because I don't know why I'm here or with this lady. Lady in red. The so monikered Rouge Wonder pursed her painted lips into a grin as the wee transgressor met the eyes of the Punisher. She bolstered the needly halter of her low-cut dress into an indivisible poise of sex and death. The hand that held the time stood still while the other scrawled a pen across a file folder before it too stopped, and the file folder flipped itself shut. The lady flicked a match and lit a cigarette. Annoyance gripped the air as she took a long, crackling drag. Smoke hissed. Have you ever cradled a brain and told it exactly what you wanted it to do? That's healing. Flatly, the lady deigned to speak again. Now! Permissive strength was granted to the dangling legs. Owen rose. The lady rose. Owen stepped back as clack, clack, clack she stepped around the desk, 6 foot tall in her sharp-heeled shoes to his 4.5. In the illusion of panic mixed with a dose of most certain reality, her cower stretched to the ceiling as she advanced on Owen, reeling him across the room. She raised the cigarette. It purred as she sucked it whole, and with the might of 10 lungs sent a plume of smoke screaming over Owen, who could do little but brace himself as he was engulfed in the acrid mist. The sound of loons ruffled the quiet. Owen peeked up through his fingers, but saw no fowl, just their distant call as they whirled about in the billowy sky. He lowered his hands and swatted at the smoke, to no avail. Just wait, he thought. It's going to be a dream. Something bounded past. It was haunched, furry, and headed for, as Owen looked up, the moonlight the dancing gaslights lent. Too big for a dog, but not really human. What? The thing stopped, turned, fell to its knees. Owen trembled as the thing reared and mournfully howled, pointing not a paw, but a jagged finger straight at his brain. Smoke cleared, the picture faded. Owen was back in the waiting room, staring at himself in a mirror. Below was a doorknob. He glanced up to see the lady, back at her desk, tapping away the minutes and writing another file. It's time to come in now, Owen. We really must begin, a soft voice beckoned behind the glass. With one last moment free, Owen took to his pallid self. This is who I am. He went through the door, and that's all you get.
When did you start putting this together, the version?
AVERSION has, the genesis of this was about, I'd say about three and a half months ago. It was during a production meeting with my friend Sarah over here that we were coming up with some ideas for a project we're working on that were related to it, and this image of a human puppet came into my head because it has to, what the project we're working on has to do with is about education and manipulation and all of that, and the idea of aversion therapy, and also known as conversion therapy, came into my mind, and it's a incredibly psychologically manipulative means of changing someone, and so this idea of human puppetry came into my head, and at first it started out as just an image and something, but then it turned into, this could be a story. Like there's some, why is someone a puppet? Why is someone's hand up somebody else's ass? That doesn't have to do with fisting. So let's make a horror story about that. And thus the idea of aversion and making it into sort of an underground published series came about.
And what would you say is mostly your drawn from inspiration? Have it be literary, film, or even is there any kind of music that inspires you to write, or has been something you've been playing or been going over while coming up with a version?
Absolutely, yes. I am first and foremost, obviously a horror fan, but also a huge Clive Barker fan. He is my idol and inspiration. I have known him for a long time, and his work continues to inspire me to this day. His notions of the body politic, queerness, and just the way he approaches horror in this classical but also incredibly visceral sense was a huge inspiration for this, because the idea of mentally manipulating someone to be something they're not is visceral when you think about it, because you are literally toying with somebody's brain. And so his work was a huge component of this, from not just Hellraiser, but also his books. The way he writes, he's incredibly visual. And then looking literary-wise, honestly, just looking at other, because this is a zine, which is a very do-it-yourself way of publishing, and also the way it's created, it can be about more off the beaten path material, but also include more things than you would traditionally see in the publishing world. So looking at other zines that people have done, like how do other people approach this and everything, but also how far do they go? Looking what boundaries they push themselves, and that helped me to be like, okay, no filter on, let's put whatever we want in here and tell a true story. Music-wise, a lot of horror scores. John Carpenter's music was a big thing while I was writing this. Prince of Darkness, but also Christopher Young's Hellraiser score, and then a lot of Cher.
Which is scary in its own right, right?
Well, when you're writing about this, absolutely, because contextually it doesn't make sense, but I feel my calmest when I am listening to Cher, because she is my goddess, my diva, and every now and again Belinda Carlisle snuck in there, because I'm secretly an 80s pop diva in a 90s kid body, so Heaven is a Place on Earth sometime came onto the rotation. Did it necessarily influence it? No, but it definitely calmed me down. So.
Well, and to touch on what you mentioned with producing your own zine, there is obviously an strong underground influence, and I feel like the only reason a big reason to do this is to be unfiltered and unhinged, to say some things that you might not feel comfortable with in a bigger publication. To go with that, one of my favorite things about self-published zines, if you ever get a chance in comic book stores, they usually have a wall where you can just pick them up for free. Definitely do that. Support local artists.
Quimby's, they sell them. They're in Wicker Park.
Inside here also, what you guys didn't see yet, or I don't know who has, some really cool illustrations. If you want to talk about that for a minute.
Absolutely, and quickly to bounce back to the inspirations, like the whole underground thing, I am a huge fan of underground cinema as well, and I go to a lot of midnight movies, and that definitely was influential, looking at filmmakers who literally lived and made movies on a dime, and they still live on to. John Waters is a huge influence on me, because he makes some of the most perverted films and works that you will ever see on film, but they're gleeful, they're a lot of fun and unabashed, and whether it works or not, he always put it up there on screen. And so having that mentality of one, you can do it for nothing, little to nothing, but then also you can truly unnerve people, whether it be through horror, through comedy, through divine eating dog crap off of the ground, like it doesn't matter. And so that midnight movie mentality has definitely influenced me. Recently seeing Showgirls with friends on the big screen, like just being out there about yourself.
In midnight movies, you're going, it's midnight, it's super late at night, you're feeling, I mean, as a kid, I know whenever you stayed up and watched a movie, you're feeling like, oh, I'm doing something I'm not supposed to,
Precisely.
and you're sharing it with whoever else is there. Clearly isn't someone to see the summer blockbuster. They came to see Showgirls at midnight.
Precisely, and it's the forbidden pleasures, and Clive is also big on that, like the forbidden desires that we're not allowed, air quotes, to express and everything. So that idea has always stuck with me for a long time. But yes, illustrations. Part of the fun of putting this together was writing it, but then also putting pictures to it, because pictures are an important part, especially to me in a horror realm, because because part of the fun of horror is coming up with what the words conjure in your own mind, and you can get as scary, as gross, or disturbing as you want, but to actually have someone imagine that and take it 5 steps further is very thrilling. And this particular issue was illustrated by Oates Rudding, who also goes by Steve, and he is sitting right back there. He's waving. Hi, Steve. And he's an incredible artist that lent his eye. I don't think he fully knew what he was getting into initially. I know we were looking at the text, and I sent it to him, and the next day, after he agreed to illustrate it, came up to me and said, "Aaron, I had to hold this against my chest on the train. You do realize what you've written, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, actually I do. I'm glad you did that. Thanks for telling me. Have a nice day. Let's go work." But one, hearing that is very gratifying, because part of my goal is to make you squirm, but then also
That should be your byline. Part of my job is to make you
oh yeah,
squirm.
it's actually on my dating profile, just so we're totally honest and everything. You know, hi, I'm Aaron. Yeah, I'm gay, and I'm here to make you squirt. Like that's worthy of a first date, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at least coffee, and then they can run.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, no, Steve did an incredible job, as you will see on the illustrations, utilizing multiple formats of doing this and everything, and bringing in an eye that isn't necessarily horror-oriented, because Steve is very much, he's definitely into it, but he's a movie lover, and that's why one reason I elected to ask him and everything, because he's big. We were having a conversation about David Lynch, who is an incredible surrealist filmmaker, in case you don't know. He directed Blue Velvet, created Twin Peaks, and all that wonderful stuff. And anyone who has an interest and can talk intelligently with that is someone I want to work with. So, and also, if you go onto his Instagram page, you'll see other drawings of his and everything. Really quirky and fun, and it definitely fit the tone of this. And
him going off of your writings for the illustrations, now that you've done chapter 1 and have used his illustrations for that, is that brewing anything in your mind for the next chapters, things that you weren't originally thinking of, and like, oh, now I'm somewhat writing tonally towards maybe an idea of an image that might play against what you're originally thinking, but now you're like, I kind of like where this is going.
yes, there is that, because he definitely saw things I didn't see, and because whenever I write, I have a particular image in my mind already of what things should look like, but especially when it comes to people, like picturing people in my mind, I never get a full body grasp until I see it visualized, because you can textually do it as much as you want, but people, I always have trouble like getting their full body. And when I saw his illustrations, I looked at them like, oh, the Mad Doctor does look like that. It just helps you see things differently. It gets you out of your own head. And yes, it does have ideas for the future, because this is the first of 5 installments of this series. But also part of this fun is that each issue will be illustrated by somebody different. We will be working with other illustrators to bring their own unique vision to the series. So thematically, some of what is in the imagery will pop up in later issues. Then also, like, mostly the text carries on thematically, but then the art will change. And then, so each issue will definitely have a different tone. Like this one has some funny, some very odd, very strange, some really gross, some threatening. The next issue, for a little tease, is called Canine, and it is a warped version of Pavlov's dog experiment, where the main character isn't referred to by his name, he is only referred to as dog, and is subjected to aversion therapy in the form of classical conditioning. Like Pavlov's dog, whenever the bell would ring, he would either salivate, and it was a stimulus for, he thinks food's coming, but they were able to condition the dog to just salivate at the sound of a bell, because he would think, oh, food. Well, it's applied now to humans with much worse things, and he lives as a dog. And so the text will get darker and just more fucked up as the story goes on, but the illustrations are going to reflect that. But it also invites other artists in our community to bring their own visions to life, because that's sort of how I approach making art and everything. It's because it's not just me doing this, and it shouldn't be. Everyone has their own unique and special talents that we want to share.
I personally, and I think it's coming back in television, definitely the American Horror Story anthology series dealing with horror. What were some of your inspirations growing up, or your favorite horror anthology?
Horror anthology. Well, the ones that I actually was allowed to see by my mother, who is sitting back there, by the way. Say hi to my mom. She made it. But because I discovered horror when I was 8. I snuck in a VHS tape of the original Halloween and watched it on a 13-inch television in the back room of our house in Georgia, where we were living at the time, and watched in the middle of the day. And while I deny it mostly because I don't remember, I apparently had nightmares, a lot of them. I don't know, she does. But I was forbidden to watch horror films for quite a while.
Forbidden fruit again.
Yeah, exactly. So I, of course, went after them. I would stay with my grandparent, and this story, by the way, she knows everything, so I'm not like telling untold stories here. I'm not going to get in trouble after this. But I would stay at my grandparents' house during the summer, and they knew, like, my grandpa really knew I liked horror, and he would actually go in.
He also didn't have to deal with the long term of the nightmares. You were there for the like, you're scared shitless, go back home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he didn't have to stick around for it and everything, but he would go in halvesies on horror DVDs and everything with me. We would go to Barnes & Noble, and I would watch them, he would fall asleep in the chair, everyone was happy. I remember watching Halloween 6, which was a shit movie, but I still got to see it because it's like, oh, this looks fun, let's get it. But then they would give me money to rent videotapes of horror films from when VHS was still around, so I got to see a lot of horror classics and everything. But in terms of anthologies, to wrap around there, I've only seen a few, because I wasn't around for Tales from the Dark Side. I've actually never seen an episode of it. I've seen Tales from the Crypt I do love, because like Creepshow and everything, based on the EC comics of the 50s, because they're very tongue-in-cheek. They always had an incredible payoff at the end. Like from Creepshow, The Crate is one of my favorite horror segments ever, with Adrienne Barbeau. If you've never seen it, check it out, it's worth it. But then honestly, horror anthology-wise, mostly Creepshow, Tales from the Crypt, and I like Tales from the Dark Side of the movie. It has its value. Otherwise, that's really it in terms of anthology inspiration. I like the idea of it, and so I've sort of retroactively been indoctrinated into that idea of like a new story each time. Like, it's not a new idea, but it's more, I don't have an intense fandom actually in terms of horror anthologies. I see them more as just horror films that I really love. Like my biggest inspirations come from like Halloween, Hellraiser, the old monster movies and everything. That's where I draw most of my inspiration from.
Great. Does anybody out in the audience have a question for Aaron dealing with aversion or any future projects to come?
Can you tell us about the other project that you were working on that inspired the zine?
Absolutely, yes. So I am very proud to say that I am working with some very wonderful people who are here tonight, including Miss Anya, who asked the question. And
It was a leading question.
yes. Much like aversion therapy, see, she's on target here.
She's
Yep.
salivating to know the answer.
Yes. Ding. So yes, Paradigm Shift Productions has partnered with Bummer Camp Media, who is represented by Anya, Sarah, and Fred here, on a short horror film called Entrance Exam, which deals with the horrors of private education in the modern world, and is launching production next winter. We are currently in pre-production right now and working to raise funds, and we're in pre-production. Catherine Woods, who is right here in the back, is our special effects makeup designer. Some of the sketches you see at her booth in the lobby are actually for Entrance Exam, and she can tell you more about those outside. And Kimber Brightheart, who represents Queers Play Cosplay, is our costume designer and can also tell you more about the project. It's very exciting. And if you guys have any questions about it, you can obviously ask me up here or anytime. It's going to be a wonderful movie, very, very violent, very dark, and very, very queer, which is what we want. So, yeah, that is the current project. Of course, more issues of Aversion will be coming soon. I don't have a street date because I have the outline. I just have to write the damn thing. So once I calm down from this, I will sit down and get back at the pen and paper and continue writing more. So,
And I think final question for me is, after Entrance Exam and maybe after once you've completed all 5 chapters of this, would you ever think about either making this a web series or a film or a collection of shorts to make an anthology?
absolutely, it has crossed my mind. The first thing if that came along, that would be lovely. I would also love to work towards making this entire series after its initial run in the more DIY realm that it's in right now, putting it together as as an anthology in terms of a book, and put it all together. But yes, if I was approached to make this into a film, I would love to. So anyone who has, a few thousand, money, we'll just say it, money.
They're going to have ideas too, because with money comes ideas, but yeah. Money.
Yeah, but I'm really good at, when money's involved, my ears are really good at listening. So, I will love you, and I will talk to you, if it's a good idea. If it's not, well, I'm a good listener. And I'm also a supervisor in customer service, so I know how to listen and not listen at the same time and still make people happy, so, because that's the day job.
With that, I think we're going to open up the table here to start selling the copies. Let's give a round of applause for Aaron and for the reading.